Hey, how's it going? I'm Cupid. I have schizophrenia. Um, Today, I want to talk about the common misconceptions of schizophrenia. Um, there are a lot of different beliefs out there that people have about schizophrenia, and that is what makes the stigma so bad behind schizophrenia. And I just kind of want to go over some things to help people understand it better. I did some research on this and found a lot of information, of really helpful information. I even found myths that I hadn't even thought of myself. Um, so here we go. So misconceptions. So one misconception that I found was people with schizophrenia need extra help and attention and need too much care. Most people with schizophrenia can live a normal life with the right treatment. Treatment may not help all, but it can help most. So that is one common misconception. The most common misconception that I found out of all of the different readings that I did um, was that schizophrenia means you have a split personality. While in reality, this is false. Schizophrenia often involves a variety of symptoms, but not one involves multiple personalities. Most of the population has movies or media as their only interaction with the disorder, therefore, are unable to recognize the symptoms associated with schizophrenia, ignorantly believing people with the disorder have split or multiple personalities. The origin of the word schizo literally means split. However, in this case, it refers to gaps or a splitting in a person's ability to think and express emotions. Split personality, also called dissociative identity disorder or multiple personality disorder, is quite distinct from schizophrenia. There's a split for those with schizo between reality and fantasy. The person may experience delusions, hallucinations, while emotions may become inappropriate. There is a confusion about who is real and what is not. Um, Schizophrenics are known to hear voices and see unreal things, but they also suffer from negative symptoms such as low motivation, difficulty forming social connections. Um, they experience a lack of pleasure in everyday activities. They rarely speak and have difficulty paying attention, according to the American Psychological Association. Um, the next misconception um, is that people with schizophrenia are violent or dangerous. In reality, it's actually rare for someone with schizophrenia to be violent. It's actually much more likely for someone with schizophrenia to be a victim of violence, not the instigator. Individuals with schizophrenia are often depicted in popular culture as sadistic, unpredictable, and violent. Granted, individuals with schizophrenia do commit crimes, but most patients are nonviolent. Sadly, the assumption that schizophrenics are dangerous contributes heavily to the disorder's stigma. So it does definitely play a big role in we are why our stigma is so bad. Next misconception is people with schizophrenia can't hold a job. In reality, stable individuals can function quite well when staying current on medication with their medication and utilizing psychosocial treatment. That's not what I was expecting them to say. The National Alliance on Mental Illness estimates that as many as half of the 2 million Americans with schizophrenia can improve significantly or even recover completely if they get treatment. Working a job can actually help people recover from schizophrenia. It can serve as a form of vocational rehabilitation. Ah, sorry, sometimes I do that. Independence and empowerment can be an important component of the recovery process. Um, I know that right now I'm focusing fully on school, and so I'm not working. But I have worked a job before full time and gone to school full time. Um, at the same time and been able to function quite well. There are different times, like I went between my second and my third episode, I went for like 5 years without any issues. Like I heard voices here and there, but they weren't watching me. They weren't doing crazy things to me. Um, it was just like people that I knew talking about me sometimes. Um, so I've been able to go without any issues for a long period of time, and I was doing really well. Um, even was able to do work full time while I was in my third episode. So it can happen. You can still do things, um, you know. So don't don't think that you can't. Um, so another misconception: schizophrenia causes sudden mood changes or sudden character changes, automatically snaps or whatever, things like that. In reality, a sudden dramatic change of character in individuals with schizophrenia is not the usual scenario. It's actually more common for the signs and symptoms of this mental disorder to surface over time. In the typical progression of the illness, a person may first become withdrawn, isolate more frequently, and diminish participation in activities. Then a stressor such as beginning school, entering a relationship, or any number of stressful events um, could cause a psychotic break to occur. Symptoms can wax and wane with a slow roll over the course of months or years. My episodes, they usually don't like really show that they're severe until like a few years into them. Every single one of my episodes, my first one was like a year or 2 years. My second one was like 2.5 years. My third one was almost 3 years. Um, and nobody knew that I was going through it until usually near the end. And my when I first started showing that I was schizophrenic, it took 5 years for them to diagnose me with schizophrenia, or a little bit over 5 years. Um, I had been diagnosed with all kinds of other things throughout my life, including schizophrenia when I was a kid. But when it first started showing as an adult, like to the extreme, um, they diagnosed me with all kinds of other things. And I didn't even go to see a doctor about my symptoms and stuff until halfway through my second episode. And they diagnosed me with something completely different at the time, put me on different medications. None of it worked, so I stopped taking medications altogether, and I didn't take medications for a long time until the end of my third episode again. Um, Here and there, I would go on medications, but for the most part, I would stay off of medications. And yeah, it progressed, and they didn't diagnose me with schizophrenia until like 5 or 6 years in. I have been diagnosed now for 5 years, and I've had it for probably about 12 years. So it was probably about 7 years in. So I've been diagnosed for 5 years. Um, so yeah, another misconception that we need long-term care or hospitalization. Appropriate treatment today may include a combination of outpatient care, acute hospitalization, and longer-term hospitalization when needed. In cases where family support and financial resources are available, many patients still need inpatient treatment. Recently, the treatment model for schizophrenia is beginning to move away from longer-term hospitalization in exchange for more modern outpatient treatment. Some patients benefit from going to a day program or a partial day hospital where they can receive daily treatment, but still maintain some day-to-day normalcy. Therapy may vary from individual to group therapy, and medication of choice is usually second-generation antipsychotic agents. Time can vary from weeks to months in longer care settings and depends heartily on how patient is progressing. Um, Another misconception: schizophrenia is untreatable. Historically, in films and times in the past, people with schizophrenia were frequently hauled off to institutions, often left to live the rest of their lives in isolation. In many ways, developing a severe mental disorder was the same as receiving a life sentence in prison for a crime you didn't know you were committing. Because of this, many people wrongly accepted and believed that schizophrenia was untreatable, and the only option for their loved one was institutionalization. Sorry. Although it's true that schizophrenia is not curable, it can be successfully treated through medication, rehabilitation, and psychosocial therapies. Individuals with schizophrenia can go to lead independent and productive lives. In fact, with proper treatment, many people with schizophrenia appear to be completely healthy. Actually, most of the people in my life, the only people that knew that I had schizophrenia for the longest time um, was my mom um, and my stepdad. Um, but for the longest time, my closest friends didn't know that I had schizophrenia, not until I came out on Instagram a few years back. But I knew these people for years on end, and none of them knew I had schizophrenia. I acted normal. I made sure that I was completely on point when I was around people so that I didn't look crazy. Um, and I tended to stay to myself most of the time I was having issues. Um, yeah, um, so another common misconception is that schizophrenia is the result of bad parenting. I had never heard this one before, um, but I have heard that people think that it has to do with like head traumas and stuff like that, which can actually cause a psychotic break, or it can be an environmental trigger. But it is not necessarily the reason behind having schizophrenia. Um, I know that childhood trauma can cause schizophrenia, though. Once again, we're discussing false ideas of the past. It was once believed that the mother of both parents were responsible if the child developed schizophrenia. While genetic susceptibility could, the mother or both parents, sorry, I think I said that wrong, were responsible if the child developed schizophrenia. While genetic susceptibility could play a role as the disorder tends to run in families, there is absolutely no evidence schizophrenia is the result of parental practices. Um, so another common misconception is that schizophrenia only involves delusions and hallucinations. Many people incorrectly believe that individuals with schizophrenia only suffer from hallucinations and delusions. This is not surprising. Psychotic symptoms are unusual and often frightening, and so popular culture focuses on these more than other symptoms associated with schizophrenia. Along with delusions and hallucinations, though, individuals with schizophrenia may experience blunted emotions, low motivation, disorganized speech, a lack of desire to form social relationships. They also can have difficulty maintaining attention and performing certain cognitive tasks. Um, Another common misconception is that if your parent has schizophrenia, you'll get it too. Genes do play a role, but just because one of your parents has this mental illness doesn't mean you're destined to get it. If one parent has schizophrenia, your risk of getting the condition is about 10%. Having more than one family member with it raises your risks. Another common misconception, which I think is one that really plays a role in how people with schizophrenia feel about themselves, because I mean there's a lot of them that play that role, but this one definitely it plays a big role as well. That people with schizophrenia aren't smart. Some studies have found that people with the condition have more trouble on tests of mental skills such as attention, learning, and memory, but that doesn't mean they're not intelligent. Many creative and smart people throughout history have had schizophrenia, such as Russian ballet dancer Vaslav Nijinsky. I don't know how to say that name, so I'm sorry if I botched that. And Nobel Prize winning mathematician John Nash, which was the guy behind A Beautiful Mind. Scientists are even looking into links between genes that may be related to both psychosis and creativity. Um, Another common misconception: schizophrenia makes people lazy. The illness can make it harder for someone to take care of their daily needs, such as dressing and bathing. This doesn't mean they're lazy, they just need some help with their daily routine. And that's not always the case. But sometimes when you're like, the only time that I ever get that way, or I have issues, um, is when I'm really deep in my psychosis. And I used to hide in my closet sometimes, and I'd stay in there for hours on end just because it was so dark. Or I'd close all my curtains and sit in the darkness, and I wouldn't do anything because I thought, cameras were in the bathroom or things like that. So I would find ways that I wouldn't be seen by the cameras or be watched by them. But that's really the only time when it gets severe like that. That's the only time that I really get lazy about my daily care routine. I'm very good at it most of the time. Another myth is you can never recover from it. Schizophrenia can be hard to treat, but it's impossible with the right but it's not impossible. Sorry, I read that so wrong. That would be the non-myth then. It would not be a myth. Okay, so let me read that again. Schizophrenia can be hard to treat, but it's not impossible. With the right medicine and therapy, about 25% of people with this disease will recover completely. Another 50% will see some improvement in their symptoms. Many people with the condition can live a full, productive life. Okay. Another common misconception is that it cannot happen to me or anyone I love. About 1 of every 100 people develops schizophrenia. 1 of every 50 develops some other psychotic illness. So, most likely, someone in your life has either schizophrenia or some other mental illness, and you may not even know it. Most people, they hide their mental illness because there's such a bad stigma behind having schizophrenia or any other mental illness that most of the time you don't know it until it's too late. Um, so another common misconception is that, sorry, this is really small writing, so I have to read it really close to my face. It's a chemical imbalance brain disorder that you can test for. Although we think schizophrenia is a neurodevelopmental brain disorder that may involve chemical imbalances and possibly structural differences in the brain, we can't test for it at present. Researchers are exploring use of the human genome map of genes both at the individual and larger group level, neuroimaging, highly detailed pictures of the brain, and electrophysiology study of the brain's activity to try to find indicators of illness. They are learning a great deal, but to date, no markers that could be used as a test have emerged. So that's good to know because I actually did wonder that how they test for schizophrenia. I did think that there was a way that they could do it because it can be in the genes, but so far there are no ways to test for it. So that is all for the misconceptions. I was going to tell a story, but it sounds like I don't have time. I went through so many different misconceptions, and there's more out there. I was doing my reading, and I could find so many more. I found this article that had just like hundreds of them, and some of them were just to do with mental illness in general, common misconceptions about them. So you can definitely find information out there about it, and good information that can help you when people start to get those bad ideas in their head about what schizophrenia looks like or what it is to them. You can definitely provide them with information and tell them, here is the truth. That is not the truth. So I definitely plan to show more people this video and tell them all about why they are wrong about what they think of me. I mean, not that I want to like push it in their face, but I mean, like, I want people to understand that when they are wrong because this is not the truth about what schizophrenia looks like. And I definitely think that more people deserve to know. So, anyways, have a beautiful day, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was helpful. I hope it provided the right information that can help you guys understand your own disorder or someone else's disorder in your life just a little bit better. Have a beautiful day. Stay beautiful, stay wonderful, stay amazing, stay awesome, stay unique, stay you. And above all else, you guys love yourselves, okay? Peace and love.